How's it going, YouTube? Sean here. So today what I'm going to be talking about is neuraldsp's Archetype Nolly. So let me talk about my experience with this plugin. Dare I say it, as much as I love Nolly and I think he's an amazing producer and he's made this marvelous plugin and he's amazing on bass and he really knows his stuff, it's probably just me and maybe it's to do with my setup. So this is no criticism of Nolly. I really didn't like the presets in this plugin. I'm not talking about the presets that Nolly made, I'm talking about just the generic presets. I didn't actually spend a lot of time going through the different presets, to be quite fair, but I really didn't like them. And that's probably just because of me as a player. It might be my setup as well, because I do have some old pieces of gear, but for me the sound was just a bit too brittle. It sounded very abrasive, there wasn't a lot of mid-range, it was very trebly, and I'm pretty sensitive to treble. I don't like a very trebly sound. So some of the presets in there were okay, they just weren't really my thing. I'm probably also a bit biased because I actually bought the NTS plugin and got some really good sounds out of it. So I was hoping to be able to jump into this plugin and just be able to use the presets and get a sound that really inspired me straight away. Didn't really happen. Each to their own, it's one of those things. Doesn't take any shine off Nolly, who am I to judge? So I almost quit using this plugin straight away just because I wasn't inspired at all when I opened it for the first time. However, little did I know how versatile this thing is when it comes to making your own tones. Literally within about 10 to 15 minutes, I had a much more satisfying lead tone for my personal preferences, and then another 10 minutes later, I managed to create a really cool rhythm tone as well. These rhythm tones are much more catered towards my type of sound. The things I'm looking for when I'm making presets is something that's very warm sounding, that has a lot of mid-range. Something that was lacking in those presets when I first tried them out. Anyway, to cut to the chase, the two sounds I'm going to show you, one is a rhythm preset, and two, the other one is a lead preset. I made the lead preset first and I made the rhythm tone second. So there's quite a few things that I did to make these sounds. I wish I could show you, but my neuraldsp Archetype Nolly trial is just finished. Bad timing. But what I can tell you is I used the separate EQ section to really dial in the sound of these tones. I've really bumped up the mid-range and I really knocked down some of the treble. And when it got to the really high frequencies, I dropped it down even more because I'm just the type of person who likes a really warm guitar tone. But the way I kind of designed this is that the lead tone was to have more mid-range and then the rhythm tone to have a little bit less mid-range. So that if I was to combine these two different sounds, the lead tone is going to cut through the rhythm tone because of that extra mid-range punch. And that's just me thinking ahead in terms of mix. I also used the overdrives to get this sound and I played quite a bit with the presence control as well. The amp which I used is actually the very first one when you open the plugin. And then in terms of effects, for the lead tone I added compression, and what I also did was I also added just a little bit of delay. There's no reverb in this sound because reverb, it's one of those things, I like to try and keep it out of a camp because again, I'm just thinking ahead to when I'm mixing. Anyway, without further ado, have a listen to these tones and let me know what you think in the comment section below. Alright guys, so what did you think? I was really impressed with the results that I got out of this, especially considering I only spent about 10 to 15 minutes making these tones each. So this really goes to show how versatile this plugin is, and why I'm so glad that I gave it a little bit more time than I was willing to initially. So if you don't like the presets, it doesn't mean to say that you can't get something really usable to your preference. One massive compliment I will give to this plugin though, is the separate EQ section. That separate EQ section is so smooth, it's unbelievable. It plays such a massive role in terms of how your tone comes out. So I'd really recommend playing with the EQ section. It really is fantastic. It's actually one of the highlights, I think, of this plugin. I also like the microphones that are built into this plugin. They sound really good. With those settings, I forgot to say, I did tend to go for a bit of a darker tones, so I was keeping the microphones quite far away from the middle of the cone. Again, just my preference. I prefer dark tones to really bright tones. Anyway, this was just a little quick demonstration. There's loads of reviews out there, so this is not what this is trying to be. Let me know if you like the sounds. I really like this plugin. If I was to choose between all of the Neural DSP stuff so far, I'd probably stick to the 14 NTS for the heavy tones, and then I'd use either the Plini or the Archetypenolly for the lead tones. I really love how warm these lead tones can get on both the Nolly and the Plini. I also think the Plini is fantastic. Anyway, that's just my preferences. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.